Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday for another training sesh. We're back. I feel like these weeks fly by. It's kind of crazy. So it looks like, here we go. Hello, everybody. Okay, I'm officially live. Let me just make sure I can see myself and hear myself over here before we get rolling. Let me see. There we are. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to leave my phone kind of over here just in case I can't see comments. But anyway, for those of you joining us live, give me a heart, give me a thumbs up, let me know that you're here. And for those of you who are watching in replay, definitely give me a hashtag replay. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different because I want to kind of engage you in this conversation versus kind of a one-way. So when you hear something that, resonates with you or you feel like it's like on the money, it's a little kind of nugget, I want you to give me a hashtag nugget. Just write hashtag nugget inside the comments to let me know that you've heard something that resonates with you. Hey, Missouri, how are you? So good to see you here. I'm going to give a few minutes for people to start rolling in. So again, if you are joining live, definitely give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, let me know that you can hear me. And again, today, if you hear something that resonates with you, give me a hashtag nugget in the comment section, and we will be giving away some Amazon gift cards today, two $25 gift cards today for some participation. So anyway, today we are talking about boundaries. Hello, everybody popping in. It's good to see you. Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart so I can see that you're here. I can't see exactly who's here until you give me a little sign that we're together in it. So today I'm talking about boundaries, and this is something that I have been working on personally myself, both professionally and personally, because I am a people pleaser by nature. I think a lot of us who choose to be in the staging industry are. Hello there, the hearts and the thumbs up. Awesome. I think a lot of us are people pleasers, and so when we get into these businesses, we forget that the only people who can actually create our boundaries are us. And we are in an industry where there's a lot of sense of urgency, and we are also working with people. If we're working with investors and realtors and builders, they're kind of professional negotiators. So their whole job, and to be good at it and to be profitable at it, is to really to push the boundaries and see where the boundaries are. So it's really up to us to help create those boundaries. And if you are not on my mailing list, hello, oh my goodness, lots of hearts and thumbs up. If you are not on my email list, I'm going to share with you a brief story about something that really, hit me hard. And it was not that long ago, actually. I've been working on boundaries for a long time in my business, but this was one that really hit me hard and really made me kind of renegotiate and think about myself and what I'm doing in terms of this. And that is that I had a vacant installation last year just before Thanksgiving. It was our final one before kind of the Thanksgiving holiday here in the States. And I had found out that my stepdad had just gone into hospice, and my stepdad and I were very, very close, and it was a meaningful relationship to me, and he had been battling cancer for about 18 months. And I don't live close to my parents, so, it was kind of a big deal to get there to be with them. And so I, talked about it with my team, and they're, normally this is not an issue. We work with a lot of repeat clients, but in this case, it was a new client that had hired us, and that was my first. I should have been more aware of this, but entrusted my team to take care of the installation. But I was going to go and meet the movers ahead of time because it was an early morning drop off. So I thought I'll go meet them. I'll get them all settled and get everything going before my install team arrives, and then I will head on the 5-hour trip and to my parents to be with my stepdad. And so I got there to the house, and I wasn't expecting the realtor to actually be there. And when I got there, I didn't explain to her what the reason was, but I said, my team will be here shortly. They're going to take over, and I'm going to scoot. And she looked at me, and she kind of admonished me, and she said, that's not good. That's not good because the client and I were expecting you to be here. And I thought, do I tell her why I'm leaving? Do I guilt her? And then I thought, no, I'll figure it out. I'll go later. I'll start making the trip later in the day. And I said, well, let me just see what I can do. And I ended up staying for the install. And I hated every minute of being there and not being on the road to my parents, especially on a busy holiday weekend. I already knew I was going to be sitting in a lot of traffic, and I knew any amount of time that I was delaying getting out the door was less time I would be spending with my stepdad. And he ended up passing away 5 days later. So I missed hours with him that were really, really precious. And I wanted to blame the realtor in that case, but I actually had to blame it on myself because I hadn't set clear boundaries and clear expectations for not only her, but for myself. And so I think, this came up for me again recently where I had somebody reach out about a service that I don't offer, but I really like them and I thought I would offer, I really struggled to say no to them. And in the end, I did say no, but it took me a couple of days to be able to actually say no. So I thought this would be a great topic for everybody else. And really, I look at it like this. Lack of boundaries and people pleasing are kind of good buddies, and they hold hands, and skip down the street together. So we've got to kind of extricate them. And part of it is because a lot of us don't actually know what boundaries are. And I really didn't. I understood boundaries to be something that we use to control other people's behavior, which I found icky and manipulative and not really in alignment with how I want to be. So I didn't have them really. I thought, okay, for my business, I thought I need to, kind of go above and beyond and overextend myself. And that really, in a minute, we'll talk about how that came back to bite me. But I needed to work on this to understand a few things about boundaries. And over time, I have learned so much about boundaries. And the first thing is they are actually something that we create for ourselves. They are not to manipulate and to change other people's behaviors. They're actually to help us navigate the world in a way that is in alignment with who we want to be and kind of how we want to conduct our lives. There's something that we create to protect ourselves and our time, and the only one who can honor our boundaries is us. And in order to do that, you actually need to get clear on what your boundaries are. So kind of thinking through like, well, if this happens, if this is what I will do, which I gave no thought to for a long time in my business and kind of did it on my heels and in reaction to other people's behaviors. And again, realizing it's not about changing the people around us. It's really about us just taking care of ourselves. Having boundaries is really self-care. And again, in this business, if you've experienced this in this business, we work with people that want to negotiate our time, negotiate our rates, negotiate how we do things all the time. And they don't even realize they're crossing the boundaries, right? So I think the way that I started to begin to get comfortable with boundaries and setting boundaries was that I thought about the things that are super easy for me to create boundaries around, right? So like I don't accept when someone talks to me, in a hostile way or yells at me or is disrespectful to me. That's a boundary I'm not willing to cross. I'm not willing to have somebody coming and wandering the property of my house, right? Like without me knowing who they are, what the reason is that they're there. I'd step into that. So I thought, that's so interesting that those kinds of boundaries are very easy for me to take care of. It's really more around honoring my own time. So I think the first thing is really becoming aware about what's coming up for you. There is a saying in my language in Afrikaans, bending over backwards, not good. Oh, yes, Mazurk. That is so, so true. Exactly. And that's what we can find ourselves doing it without even realizing it. But, and I think the thing is in business, it gets even more complicated because we want to grow our businesses, right? So we get a request to do something that may not be in alignment and we're like, yes, I can do that. I can jump that high for you. I can jump that fast for you. And I can, forego anything I ever thought I would do about, what kind of service I'll offer that one, So, we want to give a great client experience. We want to go above and beyond. We want to please our prospective clients, and especially in the beginning of our businesses. But this can so backfire on us, and it really, really did for me. Lack of boundaries leads to poor productivity, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Poor calendar management, which is time is really the only resource that is so precious we cannot get back, and it was so put in my face with that particular incident with my stepdad that time is precious. Every minute counts, and by not having a boundary, I completely let all of that go, and I lost time. I lost very precious time. It also leads to an inability to scale our services, and this is something that we don't tend to think about when we're working on our own. I see this a lot. A lot of new stagers will, be bringing a few accessories into a house to stage it, and then have to go back and pick up those few accessories at a later date. And that's just not a scalable thing. And it actually has more to do with boundaries. It has to do with the boundaries of your time, right? So if you're not honoring your time, you'll go out shopping for a client that you're probably not charging enough for, and you will go back and install items that you're probably not charging enough for, and then you will have to go back and pick those up, which you are very likely not charging the client for at all. All of that is not very scalable, and a lot of it emanates from boundaries. So let me share with you in the beginning of my business some of the things that I did, and maybe you'll hear this in yourself. So if you're joining us live, definitely give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, let me know that you're here. If you're watching in replay, definitely let me know you're watching in replay. And for those of you who are here live, if you hear anything that resonates with you, give me a hashtag nugget, like this is a little nugget of truth or a little truth bomb that we're dropping, right? So in the beginning of my business, I answered texts and phone calls in the evenings and weekends, always. Like I had it in my mind that to give great client service would mean getting back to people right away, no matter when they texted. I changed my daily schedule to accommodate last minute appointments. Somebody called and said, could you be here at noon? I was like, heck yeah, whatever I had on my calendar, out the window, I will go take that appointment. I gave someone a deal on my services because they promised me more business in the future. Even though I was taught that you really shouldn't be negotiating your rates and cutting deals, taking money off of the price of your services, I was willing to do that because somebody said they would give me more business. I hired an assistant way too late because I thought, a staging assistant way too late because I thought people would only want me to be doing the service, which of course led me to be way too busy. Oh, hey Karen, hey Kathy. Sorry, just seeing people pop in over here. For whatever reason, I'm not seeing my comments over here. So anyway, those are some of the things that I didn't have any boundaries around. And the problem was that I was letting people know that I didn't have boundaries in this area. So what kept happening? I kept getting texts and calls late at night on the weekends, and I still do occasionally get them. But in the beginning, it was constant because I wasn't clear on the boundaries. They obviously kept crossing them, but it was unknowingly, right? So, and I think that's really, really important, is that when we don't clarify what our boundaries are, people don't even realize that they are crossing them. So we get angry with them, right? Because they don't know what our boundaries are, but we also haven't communicated what our boundaries are. So this is really, I think this is so interesting. This is where emotional adulting comes in, right? Because we are ultimately responsible for the management of our time. We are ultimately responsible for letting someone know that they have crossed a boundary and being okay with whatever their reaction is. And again, this is hard in business when you want to, you want to make everyone happy so that you continue to get referral business. But the sooner that you set these up and know that you can do it in a loving, gentle way, the better, because you can end up in a situation that I ended up in several years ago with a realtor where it was a big explosive, just like huge debacle, because I was upset that she had crossed my boundaries so many times when in actuality I could have nipped it in the bud a lot sooner. And so then she was upset that I was no longer letting her cross my boundaries, right? So it's like a sticky, slippery slope situation. I ended up being overwhelmed. I was resentful a lot of the times because I could never get my work done that I actually needed to get done on the business because I was jumping at any point. And then when I added team, it actually impacted my team in a very, very negative way because I still didn't have boundaries. When I brought on team, everybody else was expected to operate the way that I had been operating, which was not realistic. And it wasn't until I had my staging assistant, whom I adored, call me to tell me that she was most likely going to have to quit. And the reason that she was going to have to quit was that we were in a situation where we were always granting kind of emergency appointments. Somebody would want something later in the day and I couldn't do it. We'd reach out to our staging assistant Lisa and say, hey, can you do this appointment? And she felt obligated to do it because she's working for me. And it created just a whole lot of chaos and turmoil. So I'm going to share with you in a minute what we ended up deciding to do to put some boundaries around this. But I thought it was so interesting that really the first set of boundaries I put into my business were because I was helping someone else honor their boundaries. If Lisa had not come to me and I didn't realize that I was about to lose a very valuable person on my team, I probably would not have been honoring a boundary about scheduling appointments for however long. I would have lost her, and I thanked her so much for her candidness. It was a huge lesson for me, but I could have lost her if she never said anything, and I would have never known why, and I would have continued to operate that way. So let me dive in a little bit to some of the things that I had to do and the work that I've had to do around boundaries that have really, really helped in my business, and hopefully it'll help you too. And again, if you hear something in here that resonates with you, definitely give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, give me a little hashtag nugget so that I know that you're here. And actually, I'd love to hear maybe some boundaries that you have been trying to keep intact for yourself, or boundaries that you'd like to put in place for yourself. But so here's the first thing I did. I met with a friend of mine who I thought was really good at setting boundaries, and we just had a big conversation, and her advice to me was to write down what she called bricks. And the bricks were things, not only in my professional life, but also in my personal life, that I was no longer willing to carry. I was no longer willing to carry the burden, the stress, the frustration that those things were. I was to drop my bricks. So I did a whole brainstorming list of things that I was no longer willing to do. And that was things like not answering calls and texts on considered off business hours, nor send them. So a lot of times what I use now is a scheduling app. So if I'm writing emails at night, I will not have it go out until the next morning during business hours, because I don't want the perception to be out there that I'm working at all times of the day. So she wanted me to do that, but she also wanted me to write down how I would communicate the boundary around it. So on my voicemail message that I have for my cell phone, I have it that says, if you are calling me after 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, you will receive a call back the next business day. If you're calling me over the weekend, I will call you on Monday. So I have set that boundary in my voicemail so that it is there. And because I have it there, I use that in text. So I will say, if this is something that can wait until Monday, I will answer you then. And like I said, occasionally I will still answer texts over the weekend, but it used to be constant because I just allowed it. There's a wonderful tool that she had also recommended called it's Michael Hyatt's freetofocus.com/tools, and it's called the not to do list. So it is the list of things that you will not be doing, and it hits on your professional life, your personal life, meetings, things like that, things that you can narrow down. So that was also a very helpful tool for me to just think about the things that I was letting people encroach on for my boundaries. So now we have a 72-hour waiting period before a staging appointment can be booked. If somebody wants it sooner than that, we need to clear it with our team. But typically what we have found is that even though we used to have people saying all the time, I need you to get in there as soon as possible, 72 hours is actually fine with everybody. When we heard we need you in as soon as possible, we thought like 2 hours from now, when we were trying to make that happen. So as soon as we set that boundary, people could honor their schedules more, we could plan better, and we were just happier in the end. So that was one of the bricks that we came up with. Another one was that my calendar cannot be changed. An appointment cannot be added to my calendar within 24 hours, with less than 24 hours notice. I absolutely have to approve that. It cannot just go onto my calendar because I do map out what I want to do during that day. So if there's no appointment blocked off for that particular day, I've already filled it in with activities that I will be doing. So that helped me be a lot happier as a business owner and a lot more productive. And then the next thing was my systems and client agreements. Those are great tools to lean into. So when you start documenting how you're going to operate and how you're going to run your services in your, your standard operating procedures, your operation manual, whatever you call it, you can begin to kind of lean on that a bit more. And company policies, that's another thing that we do, especially right now with COVID and masks. We've had a lot of people when we go to their houses for a consultation say, oh, they're not wearing masks, and they encourage us. They say, oh, you don't have to wear your mask. And I've just told my team, and I say it too, and I know it kind of seems funny because, it's my company policy, but I just say it is not our company policy to take these off. It's our company policy to wear them for our appointment. Period. The end. So you can lean on policies in creating your boundaries. Your client agreements. This comes up a lot with vacant staging. There are so many ways that your boundaries can get pushed against in a vacant staging, where people want emergency removals of items. They cancel at the last minute. That is a really great place to begin to set boundaries around what you do, whether that's you charge a fee for it, you put a minimum time in which somebody can cancel, blah, blah, blah. So that's another great way to begin to enforce yours. The next thing that I recommend is you get support. So I stay engaged with my team, my business coach, and my business bestie to say no. Because I still struggle with this. Even as recently as last week, I texted my business bestie and I was like, hey, I've got an inquiry for this. I don't want to be moving in this direction anymore. I need the verbiage to help me just say no to this person. And she texted me back a nice little blurb, and I copied and pasted it right into a message right back to that person, and done. That's it. But I needed that reassurance from my business bestie to keep me on track for what my own goals are, what my own wants and needs are. Your client, yes, it is. It's a great place to put your policies, get them in detail. So that's what I encourage you to do. Start by thinking about what are some boundaries that maybe you are feeling resistant around right now, that you haven't set up a clear kind of, this is a line in the sand. And then create those bricks for yourself. Write down, do a big thought download on what those bricks are, what you're no longer willing to tolerate in your business or in your life that is really impacting you in a negative way, right? Again, this is that whole people-pleasing thing. My gosh, my neighbor is hammering. It's so much construction going on in my community right now. And then you can also use, sorry, I got distracted by all the hammering. So write down your bricks and think about, what your response will be when you go to say no. Create your systems and policies to begin to lean into. Get support. Have your business bestie. And if you didn't learn about business besties yet, I'm sure that'll be an upcoming training where we talk about that. I've talked about that with my students. Business besties, so that you can just bounce it off of them and help them hold you accountable for your own boundaries if you're still struggling to keep your own. We talk a lot more about all of this and dive deeper in modules in the Staging Business Bootcamp that will be open for enrollment later this year. So if you want to be on the waiting list for the Staging Business Bootcamp, you can go to rethinkhominteriors.com/SB2 waitlist. We'll put that in the comments. It'll be in the caption. So I'd love to have you consider that joining us there, because that's where we do a lot of this work of setting up boundaries so that you can be more productive, you can be happier, you can be less overwhelmed, and you can bring on team and scale and grow in a healthier way than I did. So, totally totally, giving you all of my pitfalls. I've literally hit every single one of them. So anyway, thank you so much for joining in today. I hope that you got some little piece of nugget here that you can take forward with you in your own business. But again, if you want to join us in SB2, we'll be enrolling for that later this year. rethinkhomeinteriors.com/SB2 waitlist. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining. I will see you next week. And next week we are talking about, oh my gosh, I just literally wrote it up. What are we talking about? Something good, I promise. We're talking about why I decided to add digital courses and services to my business. That'll be a really good one, okay? All right. Have a great week. I'll talk with you soon.